Far-left lawyer running to Trump's defense. Who would have thought? This is the Glenn Beck show. He's far-right, so I'm not showing you this for him. He had Alan Dershowitz on the show the other day, and I want you to hear what he said about the FBI raid on Trump's house. Check it out.
Professor Alan Dershowitz, tell me about the raid on Donald Trump.
Well, first of all, I have more experience under the Fourth Amendment than probably any academic in America. I understand the Fourth Amendment. I've written books about it. I've litigated dozens of cases on the Fourth Amendment. And I'm a liberal Democrat who voted for Biden and against Trump. But this raid is absolutely outrageous and unconstitutional. You don't engage in a raid on a house unless you've exhausted all other possibilities. And the most obvious recourse here was a subpoena to the president saying there are 25 boxes in your house, there's a safe. We would like you to bring them all to the court tomorrow morning before you have a chance to leave where you are in the Northeast and come there and destroy anything. And we will then submit it to a judge. And lawyers can argue some of it was unclassified, some of it was unclassified by the president, some was never classified. Some may be so classified that even the FBI shouldn't have access to it. Some may be privileged, lawyer-client executive privilege. This is exactly the kind of thing that needs a document-by-document analysis by a judge, not the FBI coming in and sweeping everything together, breaking into a safe. It reminds me of the Geraldo Rivera fiasco when he broke into the safe of one of the big gangsters, Capone or somebody, and nothing was in there. Nothing was in there. You must have a single standard of justice. I'm a friend of both Sandy Berger, who was the former national security advisor, the late Sandy Berger, and a friend of Hillary Clinton. What they were accused of was exactly comparable, and there were no searches of their houses. People who have been found guilty of taking classified material improperly have been given fines. I don't think there's ever been a search like this based on the allegations made in this case. Now, don't rush to judgment. Maybe there is something there. Right now, the burden of proof is heavily on the Justice Department and the FBI to justify what they have done. Absent a justification, most Americans will not believe this was necessary. And they're going to come back and say, oh, we can't discuss it. Ongoing investigation, classified material, nonsense. Appoint a special master who has security clearance, who can objectively look through this thing, or else appoint a congressional committee, a real committee, not like January 6th, which includes, 40% Republicans, 60% Democrats. Have them look at this in a classified manner. But we cannot accept either silence or a claim that privilege somehow or confidentiality requires silence, or compared to what a subpoena would have produced. We don't know what's in there. Maybe there is some smoking gun. Again, he wasn't even on the premises. He couldn't have destroyed the information. All they had to do was issue a subpoena returnable this morning at 9 o'clock. There would have been no possibility of destroying evidence. And by the way, if anyone, President Trump or anyone else, ordered the destruction of evidence, that's Nixon time. That's impeachment. That's criminal prosecution. That's a serious crime, destroying subpoenaed material. If, that's what the law is there for, to prevent that. And does anybody believe that Donald Trump would have taken a chance to destroy material? He didn't know whether there were copies of the material or other evidence that it might be destroyed. This is a pretext. There's no way that the Justice Department actually believed that President Trump would destroy the documents. Now, people say, oh, but a judge approved of this search warrant. Let me tell you, with almost 60 years of experience as a criminal lawyer, I've never heard of a judge ever turning down a search warrant, ever. They give out search warrants more easily than Halloween candy. And so that's not a safeguard at all.
Who was the judge? Do we know who did this? Do we know anything about
We don't know anything. No, we haven't seen the document. Look, there is a search warrant in existence. We should see it. There is an affidavit in support of the search warrant. We know what happened when there was the search warrant for the FISA court.
Yeah.
It turned out to be fake. It turned out to be filled with lies.
By the FBI.
Yeah. Well, I love the FBI. I have worked with the FBI. I have worked with former directors of the FBI. It's a great organization. I don't know what the chain of command is. The White House has denied knowing about the raid, which is quite surprising. Obviously, the Attorney General, who I also know.
The White House later on came out and said they gave the okay for this, so that initial statement was not true.
A student at Harvard Law School. I think very highly of him. I supported him for the Supreme Court. He obviously had to approve this raid. What was he thinking? Let him tell us. Maybe he's right. Maybe he did the right thing. I want to know that. Americans have a right to know that, because we all now know if you can do this to a former president, you can do it to Glenn Beck, you can do it to Alan Dershowitz, you can do it to all of your lists. And this has to be justified, or else it has to be undone. I would hope that people who hate Trump, who voted for Biden, I voted for Biden, are just as upset at what happened here as people who are Trump supporters. Now, look, there are three groups of people. There are the Lauren Fry, for whom if you're after Trump, everything's okay. Constitution be damned. Constitution was written for the Democratic Party. There's no objective status. Okay, that's one group of people. The other group of people are so supportive of Trump that nothing done against him can ever be justified. The vast majority of Americans want to see justice, whether they voted for or against the candidate. And that's what we're not seeing here today. And so I urge all of my fellow Democrats to object to this. We're the ones who can really have an influence on this administration, because we're not Trump supporters. We're justice supporters. We believe in the Constitution, and that's where the pressure has to come. I think that there are elements within the FBI that have been weaponized. I do think that. Look, it happened during the McCarthy period.
Yes.
As well. And it was wrong then, and it's wrong now.
I think by far the most profound statement he made there was that Democrats who are capable of being reasonable need to be a major part of voicing the fact that this was, at the very least, inconsistent with how these agencies have handled themselves, and that by law it was very wrong and a terrible precedent to set,